Okay, dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm still having a sore throat, so I may not be able to speak that well this time and I may sound weird. So do bear with me for this video. We'll be talking about the exclusive equipment Transcendence, and you will not be using duplicate copies of the exclusive equipment, but instead you'll be using these new materials called Vessel of Transcendence Souls. I'm not too sure what they'll call it in global, but this is something that I just translated and made more sense out of through the Korean translation. Okay, so how do you actually get these Vessel of Transcendence Souls? You need 4 types of materials, and that is your Crystal of Purification, you need Legendary Soul Stones, Fragments, you need Crimson Essence, and you need Gold. How much of it do you need? You need 1 Crystal, 400 Soul Stone Fragments, okay, and that will be about 7 Soul Stone Dungeon T16 runs. And then you will also need 500 Crimson Essence, and you need 1 million Gold to make 1 vessel. To transcend your exclusive equipment, you will need 5 of them. Okay, so on top of that, when you do perform each transcendence, you will need to top up with additional gold per transcendence, and these are the costs involved. So in total, okay, to get 5 transcendence vessels, this is your total cost that you will need to be able to max out one particular exclusive equipment. So 5 crystals, 2000 legendary soulstone fragments, 2500 crimson essence, and 9,050,000 gold. So some of you may be thinking, is there a point in doing this? Well, there is actually quite a good reason why you should be doing this, because you not only get additional defense stats, of course the main stat is the defense, right, for each of the exclusive equipment, but you also get increased substats as well. But before we go on to talk about which substats, I will look at Mythic Ace's exclusive equipment first, because this is the last one that we have on the list. So basically it buffs his ultimate skill before transformation. He will deal defense ignoring damage now, which is going to be hitting really hard. And in PvP fields, he inflicts receive recovery reduction effect on targets, and also grants all DPS allies an unstoppable effect, which means they will not be inflicted with debuffs for a certain period of time. Yeah, that's his buff basically. This makes him more relevant, although I don't think we'll be getting this anytime soon, because he's still pretty much everywhere in our meta. But in Korean meta, I think he's starting to fall out, so they give him this EE to make him relevant, especially for the Mythic Rachel meta. So as I was saying, you will be getting additional substats as well. And first we'll look at the tank heroes EEs, okay? So I've listed all the substats that you will get. The first one is the default substat that currently everybody will have now. So once you transcend the EE once, you will get this second additional substat, which is the one on the second line. It's basically another effect, okay, to make the hero that you equip to gain additional substats. At tier 3, you will gain a PvP only substat, and this is either status resistance increase or status accuracy increase. In terms of the tank heroes here, they are all status resistance increase, and all the tank heroes also get a defense increase at T5. That's the maximum transcendence level. Okay, so what's interesting is that they also have an additional codex buff. So the ones you see on screen right now, the 5 of them, when you max them out at when you max them out progressively, right? How it works is when you max all at T1, then you get 1 level of buff. If you max all at T2, you get another level of buff, and so on and so forth. This actually gives you attack. Yeah, I don't know why, but instead of defense, it's actually attack increase. I guess they want to mix things up so that you don't just, people won't just focus on buffing their DPS and ranged allies and neglect the tank heroes. So the tank heroes here, they do give a codex of attack, PvP attack increase up to 2%. Yeah, and basically that's just how it works. Of course, as you progress from T1 to T5, your default buff and your T1 buff, they will also increase in numbers. Okay, so just bear that in mind. And of course, we have one more tank EE that is not included here, and that is Spike's EE. He's not included in the enhancement codex buff, but of course, you will also want to increase his transcend his EE if you're using him. Okay, and he does give accuracy increase instead. It's the only tank EE that gives status accuracy increase. Next I'll talk about the universal heroes because they also give defense increases, but unlike the tank heroes, their T3 buffs are all status accuracy increases. Here, as you can see here, these 5 will actually give a codex buff as well for defense, PvP defense. And I think you may be thinking whether there's a priority involved in terms of which EEs to enhance at this point, whether there's any one here that in particular you need to, there's a better combination of stats that, for a certain EE. But I would strongly still feel that it's better if you focus on your PvP heroes as well as your guild raid heroes, right? And from there on, you can start looking at the codex buffs that they give, which we will move on to better codex buffs later on. Okay, so this one gives the PvP defense, and then there's another 4. These 4 L plus universal heroes, their EEs do not contribute to the codex buff. Okay, but of course they are more of the commonly used ones, except Velda of course, so very likely you will be upgrading your Platoon's one, so it will be good to know what stats he will be getting. Not too sure if it's gonna be that consequential because damage dealt up for Platoon is, he is not a great damage dealer to begin with, right? And then for Ace, it's actually pretty useful because he actually does rely on his S2 to get his invincibility, so having additional skill cooldown is definitely great for him. And then for Chris, block efficiency increase, well, that's just also decent, I guess. Okay, just decent. But more importantly, take note that of course as you upgrade a particular EE, you can of course use the EE on other heroes, and the other heroes will gain those stats as well. They won't gain the skill effect of course, but they will gain those additional stats. So sometimes these additional stats will come into play in terms of your consideration whether you want to give a certain hero a certain EE. Because right now, since EEs are going to have more stats, more variety of stats, more combination of stats, then I think each particular EE will have a larger impact on a certain hero compared to right now when we are only dealing with one particular stat per EE. Then you can easily just use whatever EE you have built, right, for one particular stat. But once these additional stats come into play, and once these varieties comes into play, you will then be able to compare and contrast which EE is better for certain heroes. But of course, that is really end game stuff, right? Because for now, everyone is going to have a lack of materials, so definitely focus on your most important heroes first. Next up, we have the 5 support hero EEs. Support hero EEs actually give attack speed, which is why I say that even though after you have finished your PvP heroes and guild raid heroes, I think support hero EEs are actually very useful to invest in since they give attack speed, and this is a codex that you definitely don't want to miss out. Okay, they all have status effect resistance up, and they are the only EEs that give HP increase of 2250. Okay, and based on their substats, they are more defensive in nature as well. So these are some things you want to consider as well if you do intend to use their EEs on other heroes. Next up, we have the range heroes. There's a total of 6 in the game right now. Okay, last one is Chris. For these 5, they do contribute to the codex buff, and the codex buff does provide an increase in PvP, ignore defense efficiency. Also very useful. Okay, but of course, out of all these heroes, I think Yonhi is no longer used. Yuri may still be used, but not as common as well. The other 3, I think, are still okay to invest in. And of course, range heroes, being range heroes, they do give attack increases for the particular hero that you attach them to. And then also, of course, all status accuracy increases. And their substats are definitely more offense based in terms of ignore defense efficiency increase, crit rate increase, damage down increase, crit damage. Last one, Chris, he gives combo damage up and skill cooldown reduction. And then moving on, we have DPS heroes. There's a total of 12 DPS EEs, and because there's so many of them, they actually split it into 2 different codex buffs. So there's 2 enhancement codex buffs for DPS EEs. The first 5 that contribute to the PvP HP increase are these 5. As you can see, the Cheng Chen one is actually the same as the Henry one, right? So yeah, in terms of DPS and range EEs, some of them do have overlapping or identical substats. And then I'll talk about Carl's one here because he doesn't fit anywhere. Okay, for Carl, he does gain ignore defense efficiency up, so his damage in PvP is going to increase quite substantially, right? And also attack increase as well. And then the next 5 that contribute to status effect accuracy. This is actually very useful as well. So these 5 are definitely going to be very worthy to transcend as well, okay, over time. Because eventually a PvP meta will be more status effect heavy, okay? So definitely keep a lookout for these 5 and keep them on your list as well. Okay, so we have Rachel, Adele. I think these 2 are definitely going to be transcended because they're used in guild raid. Diana is also good for dungeons, okay? As you can see, I think Bolt's one is the same as Len's one. So again, if you have these 2 side by side, of course you will rather go build the Bolt one instead, right? Because Bolt one, not only does he give a better codex buff, right? He also is he can also be used more in your tag teams or your spare teams in Guild War. In terms if you're limited resources and you're thinking whether to build a land one or a bolt one, then of course go for the bolt one. And before I forget, we do have Mace's EE as well. He does give crit damage increase and dealt damage increase as well. And of course, just a summary again, please focus on the mode that you are most invested in. It could be PvP, it could be guild raid, okay? And focus on those heroes first, their EEs. If you're using a tank team, then I think there's only a Rudy EE for you to work on. But of course, keep in mind that there's also Guild War. So in Guild War, these EEs will also come into play. So you definitely want to also, depending on whether your guild is focused on Guild War, of course, focus on those EEs as well. So after you've done all that, then start looking at the codex buffs. Of course, the support heroes one give the better codex buff. The attack speed one is just very valuable, and that's something that you don't want to miss out on compared to the rest, okay? And yeah, basically that's about it for this video. I hope it helped, and if it did, do give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Reach out to my channel members Chilling, Jude, Maggie, Gonzalo, Yamaki, Harlan, Kors and JDM for the support. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!